Sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit. I am sweating in a bear suit. Sweating in a bear suit and having lots of fun with my sweat.
Hello. Welcome to Sweating in a Bear Suit. This is a podcast we've been doing for a while where we talk about business and life and leadership things. Today we're going to switch it up a bit and move away from ranting.
Yep.
Or maybe we shouldn't promise that, Steffi.
Yeah, I'm going to rant. Yeah,
just different things. And the goal this time is to kind of do a practice we do that we think effective teams should do, and that is reflective practice, and just explore some stuff that's happened at work lately. How did that feel, and what does that mean? The idea of reflective practice is that it helps you learn through experience effectively and process the emotions as they relate to the hard thing that is learning and working.
Yeah, and you can learn by listening to someone else's reflections, and we think that potentially this might be interesting for a massive audience of people who listen to us. And legit, we would love your feedback. So if this is useful, well, this is a format we think will work, but if the thousands of people who listen would like to tell us if it's actually useful, that would be cool.
Goal is also to be useful and a pleasant ear experience. So I hesitate to use the word entertaining.
No, please.
Something.
That should be the new byline of the show. Useful and a pleasant ear experience. So we're either audiologists or one of the growing number of humans that are like, you know what? I should make a podcast.
Precisely.
What do we do at the start of the thing, G? What do we do at the start of the thing? What do we do at the start of the thing? What do we do at the start of the thing?
We're always looking for a strapline. And Steph usually comes up with something almost as good as pleasant ear experience. So, Steph, what have you prepared?
Yeah, you actually did win this one already. Pleasant ear experience is the winner, but I'm still going to do the one that I prepared because I think it's I think it's valid. Yeah.
Okay, great.
All right. So here's the strapline. So the show is called Sweating in a Bear Suit. So it goes sweating in a bear suit. And then the strapline is, showing up at work can feel like sweating in a bear suit. The question is, are you the bear? Are you the sweat? Or are you the suit?
Intriguing. Very long-winded.
What I love about working with you, G, is I can tell how into something you are by the length of pause after I say an idea. And what is it? The length of pause is directly proportional to how much you don't like the idea. So if it's a good idea, straight away, it's like, oh yeah. The longer the pause is like, oh.
That's possibly true, but I'm also not an overly enthusiastic, excited person, or it takes me a while to decide that I really like something. So it'd be an interesting experiment to watch this over the years.
See how big the gaps are?
How big the gaps are, and whether you can correlate initial enthusiasm at all, if I ever show it, and what I get excited about after it's done.
Well, this is a good beginning to reflective practice, G, because essentially in our work life, we spend a lot of time saying ideas to each other. And I'm aware that even in that reflection, like, I really appreciate how you are really honest with me when I come up with ideas. Now,
I don't think it's a bad idea.
I don't automatically agree. If I say an idea and you go, that's a bad idea, I don't automatically agree with you, but I'm always interested as to why it's a bad idea. And I actually usually think my ideas are bad ideas anyway, because it's one of my favorite sayings is, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But
you got to put it in the room so that you can then think about a slightly better idea. We do that a lot.
yeah,
You do most of the labor of coming up with the idea, though, and I do most of the let's not do that, Barb.
that's interesting because I was going to ask you that question. I was like, in between the two of us, who does more of the putting an idea out and who does more of a quality control of ideas? Do you know what I mean? Because I was also wondering about how I'm like for you when you come up with an idea. Does that make sense?
I probably go back to the same ideas more often, and you're like, would you stop with that one? I've got these new ones.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, can we just follow through on something?
Yeah. Yeah. Or, yes, which I think is, and we say this often with us, we need the balance of both of the things, which
Yeah.
is like, can we actually ship one of the things that we've said that we're going to do? And interestingly, we were doing a retro recently, G, and you know all of the ideas that we start and don't finish, whereas I'm only really aware of the ones that we finish. So your take on our work has been like, oh, there's so many ideas that we didn't do, whereas my take on our work was like, oh, we did so many good ideas. Like, we finished
Well,
so many things.
there were so many things that were like, that is a good idea. We'd start working on it, and we didn't do the last 10 to 20%,
Yeah.
which we're not a software company, but that is a classic software company story from any company I've worked in. It's like you can get it to a point where it's nearly ready, but the final, can we get this to a user for them to use it, that feeling of is this the right thing to do, starts getting in the way. You got to market and sell it to test whether it's worth it. All that effort you just put in, we've just followed that pattern, I think.
Why do you think that? Because I think that's fairly common across everything, is like the last 10% is the hardest bit.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is true? I mean, you sort of said it then, but say more words, please.
Well, for us, it's like, what are we putting our bets on? We're still a relatively new business, and this is probably true if we were an old business. Because once you get that last 10% done, you start trying to get people to buy it. Whereas before then, it's still a great idea.
Yeah.
It's still the best thing that anyone could ever possibly use if only they could access it. We could press the last 10%.
Oh, gee, look at you being all psychoanalytic. Because that's a very psychoanalytic response. Because can I say it in like academic wanker words?
Go for it.
Like, potentially the last 10% is where you're confronted with the reality that someone's going to decide whether or not your idea is good. So, of course, that's the part we don't want to do. We want to do all the other bits, because then we can leave it as this idea that, oh, it could have been amazing, we just never did the last 10%. Whereas if you do the last 10%, then you put it out there, people go, and then you know that it was terrible.
Yeah. Plus, we have a small business problem, which I think is very common in newer businesses in particular, but not exclusively, where messaging is something we still haven't nailed. In that, like, we're convinced that we are useful and helpful and we do good stuff, and people that work with us tell us that while we're doing it and afterwards. But getting volume of people agreeing with that in the first place is really hard.
Yeah. I would even put a more pointier thing on that, is people who have worked with are like, yes, there's value. We're like, yes, there's value. But even those people that see value look at what we're messaging and going, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
that's
why?
not what you do.
Why are you talking about those things? And we're like, I don't know. We thought it would be good. So, dear listener, this is good, G. That was like a little snapshot of reflective practice and how it sort of helps you draw conclusions. What happened? How did it feel? What does it mean? That was good. That was tasty. I mean, we'll find out whether people think it's a terrible idea, but I say we keep going with the thing.
I think that's a good plan.
Should we talk about this month and what we've been up to?
Yes, let's talk about this month. Do you want to go first then?
Can you set context? So, like, what has been happening this month, G?
This month, 4 weeks ago, was the middle of April. The middle of April in Australia has a few public holidays, and the middle of April also meant the end of a 3-month consulting engagement that Steph and I did, which was working very, very closely with a team. And so that sort of ended about a month ago. And in that month since, there has been live workshops in Australia, and Steph left the country to do that, to do live facilitatory, presentory, fun stuff. And we did our first, few weeks attempt at dividing and conquering. Previously, we have, like, if you engage us for, the 3-month thing, we have very different skill sets, but we sort of come as a pair. Whereas we really tried dividing and conquering.
So our work system was about us really being a team and doing different things that supported the same outcome.
Yeah.
And really the big one is this international trip, first ever international trip, and all the things that happened within that, and how we worked as a team, and also how we worked with other teams. Because that's a thing also, I think, that we don't acknowledge enough in modern workforce, is that, yeah, you have a team, but I don't know any team that just works with their team. Like, every team interfaces with other teams, and some of those teams are in different organizations. So essentially, our team, the little team of Playground, was interfacing with other teams, also international, and also we were doing different tasks that needed to get done. And we learned some things while we were doing it.
We did.
Do you want me to give my first one?
Yeah. What happened?
What happened? I had to deliver work in front of about 100 people in another country, in America in general, and Chicago in specifics. By the way, Chicago is an amazing city. Everyone should go and see it. The architecture is mind-blowing. There was a car park, G. There was a car park that was like looking at a symphony.
Wow.
I can't explain it any other way. It twisted on itself, and it was literally just for cars. Wild.
My vague recollection, which could be wrong because my memory has been flawed before, wasn't there a massive fire or something which was terrible, but meant that
New things got
Chicago
built.
was rebuilt, all pretty designed?
I mean, you know what? Don't Google it. Don't check it. Let's just say that is probably true. That feels truthy to me and delicious. Yeah. And I say yes.
And fact check that before you answer.
Fact check that for yourselves.
Pub trivia?
Yeah, exactly.
It might be very, very made up.
And I mean, this is a slight digression, but a thing that I noticed being in a new city is, my goodness, we are so present when we are in a new place. I was talking to someone who lived in Chicago about what it was like to be in Chicago. And I was like, I spent an hour because I saw a sign on the footpath that said, this footpath is mechanically heated. And then I went, why?
What?
And then I started Googling, and I was like, how? What, like, what's actually going on? And I realized that for me, being in a different place is like doing a constant mindfulness meditation, because I am always in the present, because I'm like, look at that street sign. Look at how they cross the road. Look at how I'm like, everything is alive. Whereas here, I walk out my front door and I sometimes forget that I'm even on the street. And I suppose this connects to my first point. Going overseas to deliver a thing, getting on a plane, going through international borders, catching planes, doing all that stuff. And to be clear, I'm a 43-year-old man who travels on planes domestically a lot. I've been overseas, not recently, but I have been overseas. But I've got to be honest, all these things scared me before I did them. I was really worried that I would make a mistake and it would let you down and also let our clients down. So in the lead up to the work, and I think I managed this well because I told you that I was anxious. The phrase we
Well, the
used is,
words you the flap.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm in a bit of a flap, which helped because if I hadn't have acknowledged it, I think it would have come out in a really bad way. But yeah, and it built up until I actually landed in the US. And then a funny thing happened. Like I went through immigration, and in Australia, the Australian media was in a flap about US immigration, and that flap was potentially a little bit blown out of proportion. Now, admittedly, I waited for a long time and I almost missed my connecting flight, but it was like going through that experience of getting there. And then it was a 3-hour lineup in immigration and the flight was 4 hours. So I had an hour essentially to find my way around LAX, get through the security and find the gate. And I got there with 10 minutes to spare. And when I got to the plane to go to Chicago from LAX, I just had this feeling, this is going to sound very naff, but it's very true. I was like, oh, there was a hard, scary thing and I could do it. Like, I can do it. So it's this, we've talked about this before, this idea of confidence comes not when you have confidence and then you do a thing, but like I didn't have confidence. I wasn't sure if I could be an adult and get a plane, get through immigration, do the things. And then when I was at the gate, I was like, it really did feel like when you are a 5-year-old and you learn how to tie your own shoes. And I don't mean that in a diminishing sense for me. Like I genuinely was like, oh, I did this. I can do this.
There was clearly enough, well, some fear, but not enough to stop you doing it. And that's a
No.
really fine line for people in work and life and things. You can see how people don't leave jobs, maybe stay unemployed if they are unemployed. Don't go to that interview because fear of what if it doesn't work out? What if all my fears come true?
Yeah.
Overtakes but what if I do it and it's good and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel great?
Yeah. Yes, and this makes me think two things. My psych, who I saw a couple of days ago, and we talk a lot about work and how it shows up and what I'm like in it. She noticed a thing and she was like, you had successes. Now you had successes because you set yourself up to do difficult things. And she was like, that's a thing for you, Stefan, like the feeling of success and achievement. And I mean, I'm sure this is true of many humans, but like this was an event that allowed you to feel the success in yourself. That's really important for me to clock, is that I like having successes and finding ways of feeling success in what I do is important. And it might involve asking people I work with to be like, potentially more than the average bear, I like to have it recognized when I do something that is successful, because that makes me feel a sense of achievement.
Interestingly, so far the only example you've used though is no one gave you any feedback. You just did the thing that you were scared of doing. I know your other examples, which you might want to talk about. You got verbal things, but doing the thing itself gave you something.
Well, I gave myself feedback. This is where we get very meta. But when I was at that gate, I was congratulating myself. Do you know what I mean?
Look at me.
Yeah, look at you, Steph. Look at you. I have a Steph inside my head that talks to me, and he often does things like that. The second point is, and this isn't blowing smoke, this is literally important for us as a business and possibly for listeners to clock with their people that they work with. I needed the containing function of you to help me do it. So the amount of times you said something along the lines of, oh yeah, you'll be fine. Now, what I needed was, I didn't need you to stop with me and go, oh, you're worried about a thing. Oh, here's all the ways in which it will be fine. It was almost like the flippancy of your "you'll be fine" made me go, oh, okay, G, who I trust, who is my business partner, who has a stake in the game of me not fucking this up, is very confident that I'll be able to do it. So just trust her, not you. Elaine de Botton talks about this. We need to mistrust our own perception of ourselves sometimes. So if I'm sitting there going like, I don't think I can do it, well, okay, I trust G, because G is going, I can do it. We'll find out once I land and try to do the hard thing.
Added context was, yeah, that was true about the work when you got there. The thing that neither of us had the answer to was whether the Australian media was fear mongering,
was flapping,
was it a flap, or legitimately had a lot of evidence that something bad was going to happen. Fortunately, they may have had all those examples that they talked about and it turned into a story, but it was not your experience and worked out okay. But we did investigate together. There was a question and we went, oh no, have we got the wrong entry requirements, visa, something? Is there something you got to pat yourself in the head 4 times and we don't know that rule or something? So we went deep on US immigration, passport, visas, ESTAs, things, and we got confident we had done our due diligence effectively.
Yeah.
Which is not me going, you'll be fine. It was testing a thing with you.
Yeah. You, correct. That's, I mean, I've got more and we might not get all through them, but that's sort of my first one. So what conclusions do I draw from all of this stuff? One, for me, feeling the fear and doing it anyway is good for me, and to know in advance that potentially when I'm feeling scared about something, it might be because I'm about to have a success and I should remind myself of that. Having someone with me that I can share that with and they can appropriately from the outside tell me whether I'll be okay or not, that's really useful, because I don't trust myself. I trust someone else. I give my trust to someone who I trust to help me decide that. And then also being aware of the feedback need that I have for me to clock when I've had a success, but also for people who I care about around me, and to potentially ask them, if you see me doing good stuff, it's good for you just to gently tell me, because that is useful for me, because it gives me a sense of meaning in what I do. They're my ones.
I'm just laughing because the business partner you've chosen is like, yeah, that was great. Move on. I'm not a words of affirmation person.
I don't. Can I respectfully not agree with you? As someone that worked with you as my boss, you may have that perspective of yourself, but my experience of you is not that you do that. I think early on in our working thing, you clocked that I needed that. We had shorthand for this. We were like, what was it? Steph needs a pat on the head. Yes. And you would send me a pat on the head emoji and be like, good boy. And to be clear, audience, I explicitly asked for good boy. And that was like our code for when I'd done something that was good.
It's true. It's true. I think what I've always, people that are really good at writing greeting cards, and you were great, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And are really emotive in the way that they gush after something. That is not me. Because when I say that was really good, I mean it. I don't feel like I need any more words because it was really good.
Yeah.
You don't?
Yeah.
Do you need anything else? It was great. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. What, you know me, why say one word when you can say 10,000?
True.
And speaking of which, it is time for you to have the floor, because I have ranted long enough about my things.
Yeah.
Thinking back on the last month, G, what do you want to reflect on?
This month, the dividing and conquering was very strong for me, because in our business at the moment, a lot or a lot of the things people engage us for, the bit that they see is Steph on stage or Steph facilitating. And to get you there, you might be able to do it by yourself, but there are also a whole lot of other things that are required in like business development, client engagement, accounting. Like there are just other things that are required. And we made a business decision together that this, what the customer was buying was Steph. And so adding costs to them or us for me to go, because it was a bigger deal than me flying to Melbourne or Steph flying to Sydney.
Mm.
We decided that for the customer experience, they were getting what they wanted in Steph on stage, whether I was there or not. And I could be doing more useful things here.
Mm.
So we did that. And I had so many people say, why aren't you going to Chicago? And I'd be like, we're dividing and conquering, and we're holding our nerve and dividing and conquering. I think they thought I'd get FOMO.
Did you?
Chicago would have been great to go to.
Yeah.
But I had a good time here because I like doing different types of work than you.
Yeah.
And there was a conference on that I went to, and I played around with, this is boring to other people, but I played around with international transactions and how to make that happen. And that's quite fun for me and the other accounting. Not that I've ever done accounting, but the other people that like spreadsheets. So I was having a good time, but sure, I would like to go to Chicago at some time in my life, and that could have been a time to go. But it's also, we are in our first year and a bit, and so it makes, unless we wanted to run a roadshow that is the two of us, we had to at some point work out how to not be standing in the same virtual or physical space together at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was a bit scary. And then I had a bit of the guilt for, Steph's doing this big thing and I'm doing these things that I do every other day.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be right, but maybe he could do it himself. That was like, that is the feeling that's come up. Maybe StephanBramble.com is what people actually will continue to buy. Look at that face. You're like, I would love StephanBramble.com.
No. Can I tell you what that face is? Do you know why I'm laughing? Because there literally was, potentially / is, if I have, there maybe is a StephanBramble.com from when I first started running one of these by myself. And you know, that did not succeed. And also, even me saying, I don't know whether I'm still paying for that domain and it's still up, proves to everyone the inability of me to do a thing, because my skills lie elsewhere than all the very important stuff that is needed to run a successful business and make clients feel safe, which is all the other stuff around, that isn't the direct moment of standing on stage. Yeah.
Yes. And it gives, the other thing is the StephanBramble.com model relies on Stephan Bramble on stage at all times. Whereas we know that there are customers that are potential out there that could get some useful stuff for us and can't or don't have budget or time for StephanBramble.com on stage. And there are other ways that we're looking at trying to get content and experiences to people.
Yeah. And I wonder, in this reflection, a thing that's coming up for me, and I wonder if this applies to listeners in a more general context. And it's interesting because I learned this from you, G. I don't think that it is me up on stage. I think it is me up on stage being a communicator, a printer, a speaker for Playgrounded, which is not me. It's all the conversations, the work that we have. We spend so much time talking about theoretical frameworks and ideas about how people should show up at work. So when I'm on stage, I'm just the mouthpiece for ideas that the two of us share. It's just that I'm the delivery method. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Which I think is why, because I felt that, and why I felt comfortable and sure that the right decision for the business was that you did the flying by yourself,
Mm.
and I did all the other stuff with you up until that point and from here while you
Yeah.
were there.
Yeah.
And that I possibly just didn't feel like I explained that very well to people when they asked. And because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
hadn't done it right, it's in the confidence thing.
Yeah.
I felt like the risk was worth embracing that fear,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
had to wait till you get home to be like, phew, we were right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
we will do it again.
Yeah. The deepest significance I'm pulling from that is the lesson of when I'm up on stage, or potentially in the future you, because there will be things that you should be talking about, you should be the communicator of. We're representing Playgrounded. We're representing the ideas of Playgrounded, because the session that we did, which was very successful, we designed the crap out of that. And that was
Yeah.
us. I never went away and went, I'm just going to talk about this thing. And, even in that designing process, both of us would pick each other's ideas apart, because there were things that I wanted to do that you were like, don't do that. So
Yeah.
if it had have just been me, it would have been a different product that was on stage, which would have, I believe, been less successful. So it's a we thing, not an I thing. And it's understandable that we think that way, because I think the world looks at who the mouthpiece is and go, that's their work. But one of our giant rants is one of the big problems with how work is set up is we always want to find a hero to pin all of our dependency on. And rather than go, actually, this is a collection of people that have worked on this thing. And what's interesting, Jake? Sorry, I'm on a tear. What's interesting, in the group that we were in, the leader of that group got up and gave a talk at one point, and he talked about receiving an award for work that he had done. And in his speech and in this room, he got up and was like, there is zero way that this is my award, because everything that I'm getting an award for has 300 people who are contributing to the success of the thing. So there's no way that it can be an individual. But we always want to look for the individual as being the star.
We do. And it's interesting, one of the things I did while Steph was in Chicago was go to a startup conference in Australia. And I found myself on rants, mostly to people that I, know through work reasonably well, about the representation on stage and the perception, what was then being, what was the rhetoric then that was, and it was making someone a hero, and a lot of the time it was one man.
That thing.
Yeah, which,
Yeah.
there is a thing about, one of my guilt points was, if Steph's the one on stage all the time, am I just doing that? Am I doing what I'm then criticizing in conference organizers who were trying to find a lovely variety of people, but got people that looked very similar?
Yeah. And it cannot be denied that, when I get up on stage, I have to be aware that by virtue of my ethnicity and my gender, I am taking up time on a stage that could potentially belong to other people. I think that's an important thing for us to clock always. But I think we can, as a society, start to reject this idea that what we need to find all the time is a solo male to pin. Isn't it great that this person did this heroic deed, and think more collectively about the work that goes on? Because, not just you, G, there was a whole bunch of other people that were involved in the success of that entire event that contribute to, the breakfast that is served, it's so much bigger than any one person can ever have for something to really impact someone. But we hate it. We hate it as a society. We want a really simple thing and be like, that dude who's called Mark wears a blue hat and a slightly rumpled t-shirt. Do you know what I mean? Like,
And I can do what
you
he
know?
did. I'm just going to follow his playbook, which is kind of a lot of the conference talks were just like playbooks of through
Yeah.
experiences.
Do what I did. Do what I did.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And to be clear too, I had a really great experience at that conference and will go back and heard some really useful stories. I was just left with it. One of the things I was left with was in dividing and conquering the work that Steph and I do together with Playgrounded. I need to, for what I think is important in the world, not always let Steph be on stage by himself, even if I don't like it. So this is one of the reasons, people with us in your ear holes, that you are listening to both of us, because this is not my favorite thing to do. And I'm doing it because I think it's important that you hear both voices.
Yeah, and you know what's frustrating for people like me who love this type of thing? It's always people who are more reticent to do it that are better at doing it. It's
I don't
true.
believe that is true.
Gee, we used to run this with me being the host. Weren't they terrible when I was the host? Is that not correct?
But we both fell into different roles in that way, which is interesting. When we divide and conquer, we got to lean into our strengths and enjoyment more, which I like, keeping things on time and organizing stuff and listening to you and going, oh, that's really interesting. There was no sarcasm despite the tone of my voice. Whereas when we flipped roles, it's been like me going on stage and trying to do clown games.
Yeah.
It would be so uncomfortable because I would be uncomfortable.
But we know that when you and I present together, there's a genuine magic of that difference that happens because you your presence on stage allows the purpose and meaning and message and utility to happen, and then this thing over here is then allowed to go more into the thing that I'm drawn to, which is, for want of a better word, engagement, magic, sparkle, shiny, weird, something that lets the information hook into the mind. And when you have both of those things really well boundaried and you're in your lane, but then that's because then you do also start to switch and move. But this is the basis of the whole business, and what we believe about play in the workplace is that you need both purpose and play. You need the task that you're there to do to be completely threaded into the play, and then the group plays itself, and the group plays, not an individual. There's not one rock star playing with themselves. God, that's a good phrase. We should write a blog on it. Don't play with yourself. Yes. Don't play with yourself. Oh, listeners, please send us emails. Tell us if you want us to write a blog entitled Don't Play With Yourself.
Stop playing with yourself.
Stop playing with yourself. Oh, gee. Anyone who's listening can feel free to steal that idea, by the way.
Yeah, you might follow through fast. We might.
We do, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so having had that whole conversation, what are the points that you take from that conversation?
Yeah. So what happened? We divided and conquered well. We faced a fear or we tested a thing we believed to be true and felt confidence afterwards. So feeling that feeling of certainty, and we didn't talk about much, is it also feels far more sustainable for our business and the two individuals currently in it, as well as what it might look like in the future when other people hopefully can come and hang out with us. to not just have everybody go around on the same roadshow together, because it means we can diversify how we deliver our products to people. And we can both be more engaged in the work that we like doing more of the time while still working as a team. I kind of mixed up what does it mean and what does it feel all in the one blurb.
There's no right or wrong to reflective practice. We had a chat, and then there are like things. Can I share some ones that come up for me? Because I agree with those ones. I do think it's good for us to remember the need for there to be different voices that do occupy a stage. And so, particularly for me, if I am going to do mouthpiecing work, I need to remember, for want of a better word, the privilege that it comes with the background that I've had that's made me feel so comfortable in standing up and taking spaces. And for our business, that it's important that it doesn't become solely this voice. And to look for opportunities where that can not be the case. Potentially even to swap roles. I mean, I'm terrified of what would happen to the state of our business if I was in charge of all of the things that actually make things happen. But, yeah.
Yeah, we have always said we are a team because we talk about groups of people working together, and we don't think it's as effective to be a solo consultant, because who's your team at that point? Your team is the ones that you joined, whereas we've got a team we can make mistakes with and learn from, because that's what humans working together will inevitably do.
And when revenue goes up, we will have a small group of people working together, because from the world of academic nerdery on groups, I forget which smart person said this. I think it was Wilfred Bion, but someone will correct me if it is not. I think he's the one that said it takes a group to know a group. It might not be him. But anyway, that concept is if you're going to work on group dynamics, you have to be a group yourself so that you can be aware of what is happening for you as a group as you interface with that group. Now, we're only two. Be exciting when it's potentially more than two.
Yeah, what do they say? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yes.
Which
do you know what else? Oh, sorry. Do you know what else they say? We're just going to throw sayings at each other, yeah? This is the game now. What's the one? I've forgotten it now. It was something with the Navy SEALs said. Something about slow is steady, steady is fast.
Yeah, something like that.
There you go. There's one. You got another one? No? Okay.
For some reason, it sparked off one of the quotes that was said at this conference I was at while you were away, which is most people overestimate what they can do in 1 year and underestimate what they can do in 10. Bill Gates apparently said that. And I like it, because although it's got an individual slant to it, because it is about, individuals, I applied it to us because we both overestimated what we could do in 1 year. And now that we're in year 2, I feel far more optimistic about what we might be able to do in the next 9, because we're going together.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've got another saying. Do you know what? And this comes from my mum. Whenever anyone has a birthday, you always say an age that's 10 years less, or 21, because no one doesn't like that joke. There you go. That's another saying. Great.
Well, on that note, shall we farewell the recorded bits?
Yeah.
And the people with us in their ear holes. I hope this was a pleasant listening experience.
Yeah.
And
do let us know if you enjoy this format of the sharing reflections. and applying and the potential to apply it to work. Our hope is that in listening to reflections, one, you can understand the process, but two, you can reflect on your work systems and whether any of these things that we've brought up are showing up. Also, we believe what we say and we talk about reflective practice. So we kind of believe it's important to do it with you and in public because we do a lot of it.
Yeah. And to be clear, when you want to do these things, if you want to take something into work, you do not have to dedicate 45 minutes to doing it. We do this constantly in little bits.
In little bits all the time. And Stefan doesn't mind stopping something for an hour, 2 hours in order to get into the nuts and bolts because, slow is steady, steady is fast. And sometimes you do need to give some things some time because you can imagine during this process, you might bring up something spicy. Like I might say, I didn't like it when you did the doopy doop. And once that is open, you don't want to rush that one.
You'll be like, right, now we've all got to go to a meeting.
Yeah, now we go on. So actually, I'm just going to add this, I know we're wrapping up, but that's why putting aside time regularly in a calendar to do reflective practice, you set aside, I'm going to say an hour for your team to come together and you literally just ask the 3 questions. What happened? How did it feel? And what does that mean? And then if you don't use the whole time, great, everyone goes away. But you've demarcated a time, which also means when something spicy happens during the week, someone can go, hey, that was pretty full on. We're going to talk about that in reflective practice. Now, you can also stop things and talk about it in the now, but it's also useful because it lets people know that there's going to be a time where we're going to be able to talk about this thing that happened and what I learned from it. That's all my rants, G.
Good. Should we go and make some flying cars?
Yes, let's do it right now.
Bye.
Bye.
That was nice, wasn't it?